Welcome everyone to this very, very special webinar promoted by Sold Magazine. And if you're not familiar with Sold Magazine, we will be giving you a link a little later on where you can subscribe at absolutely no cost. And it is an awesome monthly e-zine publication that I'm sure everyone will enjoy and benefit from dramatically. My name is Stan Ballou, and talking to you from Orlando, Florida, and hopefully, very shortly, my co-presenter, John Van Aken, will be joining us all the way from Moscow. He is in Russia today, where he actually spends a good part of his time over in Europe, and he's having a little bit of a challenge getting on right now. But we're going to go ahead and get started so we don't delay anyone else. The webinar today is called "Has Social Media Killed Telemarketing?" And in this incredible, fast-paced seminar, we're going to be sharing some information with you about social media and also some skills, techniques, and even choices of words that you might want to use on the phone to indeed use telemarketing to dramatically increase your sales. And very quickly, John was going to introduce me, but I'll introduce myself since he's not on the line yet. I've been referred to as the sales training legend because it's said that I've created more 6- and 7-figure a year income earning sales pros than any other living trainer. My audio and video programs are sold in over 50 countries, and certainly we're going to make a very special offer to you at the end of this seminar. We are going to try to end it at about a quarter till the hour, so we've got some time for Q&A. If you have questions along the line, you can certainly type them into the chat box, and one of John's assistants, Paulina, is on the line, and she'll be going through some of these questions and filtering them out for us. Just want to make sure everybody can hear me. If someone can just type in OK in the chat box, I would appreciate it, just to let me know that the sound is coming through okay. All right, when he does get on the line, John Van Aken is one of the most respected thought leaders and peak performance experts in the world. He works exclusively in Europe, Asia, Russia. He's become a legend when it comes to helping individuals and organizations achieve their maximum performance. His corporate reorganization products, his seminars, his books reach an audience of tens of thousands of people around the world every month. And I followed John for several years, and recently, several months back, had the privilege of meeting with him when he was actually at his home in the Winter Park area for a couple of days, and we just really hit it off, and he's just a class act. His philosophy is very similar to mine. He has got tremendous depth, tremendous knowledge, both in sales, marketing, personal development, and hopefully we're going to be able to get John on the line here fairly soon. John, are you with me yet at all? All right, he's still trying to connect from Russia. All right, what is social media? Well, social media, and I'm going to try to minimize my screen here, offers additional... Yes, John, are you there?
Yes, I am. Miracles happen.
Yes, they do. All right. Well, I've already introduced myself and introduced you, so we're getting ready to start. We're already on recording mode. I welcome you all the way from Moscow. I hate to ask this question, but how's everything over there?
Oh, everything's fine. Just flew in this morning from a conference that I was at in Chicago. Great conference. Survived the flight, so anytime you survive a 10-hour flight, that's always good.
All right. Well, I'm glad you were able to join this. I know we had a little bit of difficulty earlier, but certainly welcome to the webinar, and we are off and running, folks. Social media offers additional ways that you can secure leads, make additional contacts, build followers and credibility, and even brand awareness. And you know, it's critical to understand that social media is just an incredible event that's happening. It literally is exploding on a day-by-day basis. To give you a little idea, it took radio 38 years to reach 50 million users. It took TV 13 years. It only took the internet 4 years to reach 50 million users. Folks, if you're not on the internet, if you're not using social media, believe me, your competition is indeed going to eat you for lunch. All right, let's take a look at social media a little more in depth. Today, 91% of all businesses use some form of social media. The internet, listen to this, folks, will be 4 times bigger within 4 years. That's what the experts are saying. So even though we've seen incredible growth just in the last couple of years and even the last couple of months, they're saying it will explode 4 times larger within 4 years. That is an incredible stat. John, I'm going to throw it over to you for just a couple of minutes here. Fair enough?
Sure, not a problem. Not a problem. Again, I apologize that I was a little bit late coming to the webinar because I had a small technical issue. But everything Stan just said really is really important for salespeople, especially to get a hold of. And I have no doubt that pretty much all of us that are listening on this call right now are probably using social media personally. But what I really want to challenge you, I think, is to think about how you can apply it specifically to your business. We're going to take a look at, and when I say your business, just to clarify, if you're a salesperson and you work for somebody else, well, I've always taught my salespeople that if they really want to be successful in sales, they need to think about themselves as a business in a business, even if they're working for somebody else. Can you hear me all right?
Yeah, and again, John hit the nail on the head, folks. You may work for a company, you may work for yourself. Your company may allow you to do a lot of promotion, social media-wise, with their blessing, as long as you know their legal beagles approve everything, depending on your product or service. You know, it can not only promote your company, it can promote you individually. So, you know, it's critical to realize the many ways that social media can benefit your business, because if it's not, it's definitely benefiting your competition. Let's take a look at some of the different things that you should learn to capture. Now, needless to say, virtually everyone is capturing an email, and that's fine. But I also suggest that you capture at least their first name. That way you could personalize a lot of your messages down the road. And the one thing that the great majority of companies and individuals are not capturing is that phone contact. And folks, that's what this is all about. Social media is not replacing telemarketing. It's an additional tool for us to use, but we're still going to have that contact. And whether you do your selling on the phone or simply develop your rapport, you qualify, you set your appointment on the phone, you know, that phone contact is going to be critical. So let's throw it back and forth one at a time, and I'll take the first one, and John, you can take the second one, and we'll go back and forth. Here's some of the most popular ones that you should be looking at today. Facebook currently has 800 million users. It accounts for 1 out of every 7 minutes spent online. And the old story, of course, was that XXX sites, pornography, was the leader. Guess what? As of about 2 months ago, Facebook actually passed them for, you know, total minutes spent online. 51% of Americans use it. I don't have a stat for the rest of the world, but I know it's getting right up there with that. So if you're not on Facebook, folks, get on it today. Next one, John.
Yeah, Twitter. Twitter is something that I think a lot of us have heard a lot about, and a lot of us are using. I mean, currently, Twitter grew 59% last year, and it reaches over 10% of internet internet users. So Twitter is something that everyone online, and I think everyone that has any social connections whatsoever is seriously taking a look and getting more involved in. On top of that, there's over 300,000 new users a day with Twitter, and over 200 million tweets sent per day. And that's a huge opportunity. A couple of these we're going to come back and show you how to use for lead generation, but Twitter's big. It really
Those
is.
stats are amazing, isn't it? 300,000 new users each and every day. That's just incredible. All right, next one, Pinterest, however you want to pronounce it. 97-minute average visit, folks. People that get on the site spend an average of 97 minutes. This is now third behind Facebook and Twitter. And you'd be amazed how many people have not even heard of it, let alone gone to see what it can do for you. So again, check it out. It's up and coming. It's growing like crazy. It's third behind Facebook and Twitter. John?
Google Plus is Google's answer to compete against Facebook. And if you're not on Google Plus, I would really suggest going ahead and setting up a profile because I found that you can get a lot more context, and you can really, to me as a salesperson, Google Plus really works more effectively to be able to organize the people that you meet in a system that they call circles, but also because it's not quite as big as Facebook now, you really do have a lot of opportunity to get a lot more people seeing your posts and interacting with you. They just passed 65 million users, and they really do grow phenomenally every single day.
And again, this is not Google that you used as a search engine, folks. This is called Google Plus, so do check it out. Next one is blogs, and of course probably the most famous one is WordPress. Currently there are over 133 million blogs out there, and over 14% of those blogs are corporate. And again, blogs are so easy to set up. You don't have to have an IT expert on staff just to start a blog, and you can have testimonials, you can have questions and answers, you can have surveys, you can have I mean, the list is just endless what you can have about your products, your services. So again, everyone should have at least several different blogs. John, back to you.
Okay, the next, I'm going to hit the next two. BranchOut is an up-and-comer in terms of a professional network, and it's the largest professional network on Facebook at the moment. Another professional network that probably everyone's heard of is LinkedIn. Over 70 million users, 80% of companies are using it.
Did I lose John?
If you want to think about it from that standpoint. No, I'm here. Can you hear me?
Oh, yeah, you just faded out for about 5 seconds.
Okay. All right. With 80% of companies using LinkedIn for recruiting, think about that as a salesperson. Companies recruiting, that's really them prospecting for themselves. So we'll come back to this a little bit later about how you can use it effectively to be able to find new leads. But LinkedIn is huge, and there's 12 million visitors per day. And I want to, well, I'll let Stan, turn it back over to Stan in terms of, oh no, I'm doing YouTube.
Yeah, go ahead. You're on a roll. Take them all.
All right. YouTube, I think, is huge for salespeople. And again, I'll come back to this myself in just a little bit about how to use it for lead generation. But there's 2 billion viewers a day, 2 hours of new videos downloaded every second, something like 100 years of content, and this isn't on the slide, but like 100 years of content is uploaded every single day, okay? And the thing about YouTube is that YouTube really is becoming much more than just a place to put up silly cat videos or what you and your friends did at a party that you shouldn't have. YouTube's whole strategy is to try to transition itself to be a real professional broadcast location. What that means to you, even as a salesperson, I'll come back to in a minute. Flickr is also another, isn't it maybe not exactly so much a social media, I mean, it's it's not a social network, it's a social media. It's just a tool that we can use. It's where you upload pictures, very much. It was kind of a precursor to Pinterest, but still people are uploading 3,000 images to Flickr every single minute. You know, I mean, it's incredible. And finally, I guess, is on our list. No, we've got how many? No, we've got a couple more. iTunes. iTunes really, to me, is what Steve Jobs created that is legendary and will outlive him. Because what he did was he put together an environment where we can buy and where we can share all types of content. For a salesperson, this is still an opportunity for you to be able to use, to be able to interact with other people through the different podcasts and a lot of the free tools that they have. And also being involved in the Apple environment is huge. The next is Mantix, fastest growing business community on the internet at the moment. 3,000 businesses are joining daily, 30 million visitors per month. And another one is Foursquare. Over 20 million people worldwide use Foursquare to find different businesses, you know, to be able to find where people are eating or where people are gathering. Stan, you take the last couple.
All right. Next one, of course, is Quora. Rapidly growing question and answer website. The stats are just amazing how fast it is growing. Again, if you're not using it, check it out. It's great for, you know, being able to answer questions that come up relating to your product or service, and they notify you when there is a new question, so it gives you an opportunity to get on there and answer it. Next is your RSS feeds. This again allows people to sign up for audio, video, and text feeds from you. Again, these are just not any one of these, and I think John agrees, not necessarily any one of them is going to make or break your business success, but each one of them, it's like putting a puzzle together. You start putting all these pieces together and you end up with a beautiful picture, and that picture is pure success. This one is amazing. It hosts 17 million articles, and again, if you're not putting articles out there, you're missing the boat, because this is a great way to build value, to build recognition, to build credibility by being a published author. A lot of us would like to be a published author like John and have books. And by the way, I got to plug John's new book. You want to tell us, has it got a published date yet, coming out?
Yeah, like 4 months ago. Well, let's plug it. We can plug it on a little bit. You're on a roll. Keep on going. Keep on going.
All right. Here's some additional considerations. I mentioned articles. There are literally close to 100 sites the last time I checked that will publish your article for free. They will give you a little blurb at the end as far as your bio and your website. And it's just absolutely free advertising. Press releases. Again, there are professional sites out there that will charge you and get you some great press and great Google rankings, but there's also over 60 that I've been able to find that will do it for free. So if you're not putting a press release at least out once a month, if not a couple of times a month, you're just missing this free publicity and free advertising. And, of course, emails. Folks, I got to share with you, the emails are critical. 88% of business-to-consumer firms and 71% of business-to-business firms currently use email marketing. There are many courses available for little or no money to show you how to write grabber headlines and how to write great copy. Use that. It's free tools for you. So in summary, the single biggest mistake is that we feel is that companies are trying to use social media to replace all or part of their marketing and or sales process. And John, nothing could be further from the truth.
Absolutely. Let me take this as a turning point to really get us on the specific topic that we want you to take a lot of content and I believe a lot of potential success from. I'll give you an example. This past weekend, I was at a huge internet marketing seminar, and there were people that are absolutely legendary in terms of using all these different social tools. You know, and I guess Stan and I wanted to throw all these social tools and social media connections at you, just to give you an idea of how many different social tools are being utilized right now. Because, well, I think most of us have an account on LinkedIn, or maybe we've got something over on Facebook, maybe use Twitter sometimes. But if you take a look at really what's out there, there's just an enormous amount of tools available to promote a business or an offering. But see, here's the thing. Even if you use all of it, which of course you never want to do, and this was the consensus of this conference I was at, you still have to be authentic. You've still got to go out there and close the deal, because no email, no Facebook post, no Twitter account, no LinkedIn connection is going to close business for you. And this is the big thing that you've got to understand, that social media does not replace the salesperson. All social media does is make it easier for you to be able to connect with people, stay in contact with people, maybe find new people, but still, as a salesperson, you've got to go out there and you've got to make that sale. And I personally believe, and I think Stan does as well, and we'll share some of this with you for the rest of our call, is that really telemarketing is even more important with social media. So,
in fact, the top 20% of salespeople, who usually account for 80% of the sales, will realize the tremendous opportunities to continue to use telemarketing to reach out to new contacts and inquiries, cultivate relationships, continually add new customers and clients. And telemarketing is more powerful and more relevant than ever before for salespeople. So, folks, go ahead, John.
Absolutely, and here's why. You know, after you use social media to make that initial contact, you're going to need to do something to build a relationship with that potential customer. You know, and this is where telemarketing becomes so critical. And let me frame something else before I turn it over to Stan, because, I mean, he really is the master here on this topic for tonight. You've got to think about it like this. We're not just talking about the old-style telemarketing. You know, you sit at your desk with your rotary phone, and you're calling through a page of the telephone book or something like that. I mean, today we have so many different variations of telephone, using Skype or using the phone. I mean, constantly I'm doing calls with people, video conferencing all over the world. The fact that we're doing this particular webinar, with the technology that we are through GoToWebinar, in essence is kind of also telemarketing. You know, it's being able to use our voice to be able to build a relationship with somebody in a way that we can help them solve a problem. That's exactly what we're going to have Stan teach us here tonight. So, Stan, run with it.
All right, John, thank you, my friend. All right, let's get into some solid meat and potatoes. For those of you taking notes, which should be everybody, please take a lot of notes, because we're going to talk a little bit about the opening, a little bit about qualifying, a little on presentation, some on objections, and then, of course, closing. Again, the 5 basic steps in telemarketing skills. For those of you that don't sell a product or service on the phone, again, 95% of these skills and techniques can be applied to face-to-face, belly-button selling. So please don't try to disqualify something or figure out why something won't work. For those of you that don't know my background, next month is a very special time for me, because in July of '77, I made a commitment to invest 1 hour a day to try to become a master of my craft, because my mentor had taught me that the University of California said that if you invest 1 hour a day studying any one subject, within 5 years you'd be a world-renowned expert. Well, I went on to double my income every year for 5 consecutive years, became a speaker and trainer, traveled the world for over 20 years, doing as many as 22 engagements a month. I'm not saying any of that to brag, only to stress to you that that formula, an hour a day, 5 days a week for 5 years, works. The only neat thing that I want to share with you is I didn't stop at the end of 5 years. I still do that hour a day, and next month, July, will be my 35th anniversary of investing. an hour a day to try to get just a little bit better today than I was yesterday. All right, let's talk about the opening. I'm going to share a couple of things for inbound. I encourage you to say something like, thanks for calling, and then the name of your company. Show your appreciation when people call in. Or you might say, we appreciate you calling, the name of your company. Again, showing your appreciation. You can also identify yourself. This is Stan, and how may I provide you with world-class service? Folks, some of this may sound a little strange, may sound a little different. I understand that, but these are skills and techniques and choices of words that the best of the best are using, and I want to share this stuff with you. This is, Stan, again, how may I make your day a little better? Or one that I love, this is Stan, and how can I put a smile on your face today? Folks, I'll guarantee you, if you start teaching your reps, your customer service people, whoever is answering your phone with that last one, this is, whatever the name is, and how can I put a smile on your face today? And do you notice the smile on my face? Hopefully you heard it. You heard that forced laugh. It is a performance. Don't deliver it cold. This is Stan, and how can I put a smile on your face today? It ain't going to work. Put that laugh, that smile on your face. How can I put a smile on your face today? You will be amazed at the feedback that you're going to get. So try some of these. They work. Next point, we're going to get into outbound openings. I'm going to suggest that you use anything but hate. And, of course, for those of you that know me, you know hate stands for how are you today? Folks, that is a choice of words that's been around for over 30 years. It's been so overused and abused, it turns people off. So please, anything but hate. Now, interestingly enough, I don't recommend that you ask a question in the first 3 to 5 seconds of a phone call, but rarely you might want to replace that how are you today with another question, such as, can you hear me okay? Or am I pronouncing your name correctly? Now, again, that should be at least a 3-syllable name. If you're, calling for Bob Brown, you don't want to say, am I pronouncing that correctly? They'll throw a net over you and take you away. Or can you stand some great news for Tuesday, June the 12th? Again, folks, that last one, I'm going to always remember that curiosity overpowers programming. When you open with a question like, can you stand some great news for Tuesday, June the 12th? Invariably, over 95% of the time, they say, what's that? You've just changed the structure of the call by arousing interest, creating some curiosity. All right, another thought about openings for outbound, always open with a couple of potential benefits after introducing yourself. Folks, this is critical. Everybody wants to know what's in it for me. They may not ask you that, but they're thinking that. The average person that you reach out to on a call, you've interrupted them. Even if they're just sitting there dreaming about where they're going to play golf on the weekend, you've at least interrupted their train of thought. And I don't want to bust your bubble, but they don't like you. So the one way to get them to like you very quickly and start to develop any kind of comfort zone or rapport is to stress a couple of potential benefits that you might be able to offer them. So please don't keep it a secret. Get those benefits out there within the first 8 to 12 seconds. And yes, that's what we have, folks, is about 8 to 12 seconds. There's no second chance at a first impression. You've got about 8 to 12 seconds coming out of the box to impress them. All right, a little bit about qualifying. Absolutely, please do.
Just something that I think salespeople tend to forget, or unfortunately many times they're not taught, is as a customer, the customer's really thinking about one thing. Okay, what am I going to get out of this transaction? And rather than thinking about how great your product is or how great you are or what you can do to show the customer how great what you have is in reference to something else, ask yourself this question. What is it that you're going to be able to do to help them have a better day, a better week, a better month, ultimately a better life. Because as I look around the world, and I travel way too much. I have enough frequent flyer miles to go to the moon and back. And it's true. And as I travel, I see so often people are just frustrated. They're in pain. They're going through situations, especially in the economy that we have globally now, that they've never experienced before. And if you can give them something that will make their life better, it's huge. And this begins from the very, very beginning of the relationship when you do that inbound or that outbound call.
Excellent point. Excellent. All right, let's move into some qualifying. Folks, I'm going to suggest you quit asking questions. I know that's a little strange, but in Selling 101, we learned that there's open and closed-end questions, and open-ended questions are better than closed-end questions because they give you more information. But if you have 4, 5, 6, 8, 10 qualifying questions that you need to ask, the thing can end up sounding like an FBI interrogation. So by using instructional statements such as, tell me about whatever it is you want to know, your current supplier, or fill me in a little bit on what you're trying to accomplish with your short-term investment dollars, or share with me how you're currently using whatever. If you'll notice, those aren't questions. Those are direct orders. But the key is they will come across and sound much more conversational and less confrontational. So I'm going to challenge all of you. Take a look at all of your qualifying questions and see if you can restructure them into an instructional statement. Now, this is critical to realize that there's a saying out there that buyers are liars. We've all heard it. Well, why is it out there? Well, unfortunately, to a large degree, it is true. Many of these people that we're going to be calling and qualifying have been called and qualified by other salespeople selling the same or similar products or services. Over time, they've gotten used to our script, and they have prepared scripted answers for our scripted questions. Does this make any sense? The way to get them off of their scripted answer is to use continuation phrases. When you ask a qualifying question or use an instructional statement, and they give you an answer before you go to the next subject, please use a continuation phrase like, please continue, or go on, or and then what happened, or tell me more. Whatever they say next to justify, explain, enhance their original comment to you is more close to the truth and the real truth and nothing but the truth. You've got them off their script. And by the way, the last 3 words there, tell me more. If you learn nothing out of this webinar except one thing, please put a star by that one. Those 3 magic words will serve you so well for the rest of your life. When anybody ever says anything to you that you don't understand or you don't know what it meant, you simply say, tell me more, and get them to talk more so you know what they meant or where you're supposed to go with it. So again, those are some great little tips on qualifying. Any comments, John, before we move into presentations?
No, you're rolling. Just keep going. You're good.
Right. Be a performer. Be a performer, folks. The greatest sales pros in the world put on a show. They are storytellers. Learn to tell stories. Study the great comedians, the great storytellers, the great orators, the great speakers, the great evangelists. Learn how to tell stories, and also use a lot of third-party references. This is critical because, again, if we say it, they can doubt it. If somebody else said it, it must be the truth. So you're constantly throwing in third-party references, and it also gives you a great opportunity to drop names of existing customers, clients, particularly if they're well-known within your industry. Be a performer. Learn to sell with emotion. Again, yes, they need the common sense, logic, rationale, facts, figures to back up the decision, but we all know the decision-making process is pure emotion. You need to become that performer. As Zig says, and he steals a lot of my material, Zig says, sell with emotional logic. You know, yeah, you need all the facts and the figures, but you need to be that performer. Tell the stories and then use the third-party references and then end with a benefit summary. Now, I've probably had 3 original thoughts since July of '77, and I'm not sure about 2 of them. But this one, I believe, is an original. End with a benefit summary, and I'm just going to touch on this briefly, but, folks, it's critical. If you've been doing a presentation 10, 15, 20, 30 minutes, I worked with a client the other day that his presentation was an hour and 10 minutes long. Folks, you've covered an enormous amount of ground in that time frame. You've answered questions. You've handled objections. You've gotten off the beaten, proven path. You've kind of jumped all over the place, and now you're basically asking your prospect or client to make a decision. In most cases, their head is swimming with information overload. What are they making a decision on? Well, you have to tell them what to make the decision on, and the easiest way to do that is to end your presentation by saying something like, here are the 3 critical points you need to base your decision on, or here's the 4 overwhelming factors in your favor by going with this today. Whatever, summarize it, and then you go back through the 2, 3, 4, or 5 key benefits. And unless they stopped you, you've just made your sale. It's closing a sale. The best definition I've ever heard is a logical conclusion to an effective presentation. And the great way to make that presentation as effective as possible is end it with a benefit summary. All right, let's talk a little bit about objections. Folks, generally speaking, there's 4 times to handle an objection before they occur. And again, if you're qualifying properly, you should be finding out ahead of time whether or not there's more than one person involved in the decision, whether or not they have the budget, whether or not the funds are liquid, how and when and why they make decisions, what their needs are, what they're currently using, what they're happy about and not happy about. So many of these things we can actually find out during qualifying and then build into our presentation, so we're actually handling the objection before they bring it up. A second time is when it occurs. And again, I'm going to show you a killer technique in just a minute. There's dozens available on my series, in my audio, my videos, my printed material, but I'll give you the most powerful one that I possibly can give you today. The third time is after they occur. If you're on a roll, if you're in your presentation, they bring up a comment, an objection, you may not want to stop what you're doing and get off track. So you simply acknowledge it. Interesting point. I'll cover that in detail in just a second. And go on with your... Just never. Sometimes a prospect will come out with some cockamamie statement or comment that just doesn't really make any sense. They're just making noise. And you can acknowledge it and just move on. And unless they bring it up a second or third time, you don't have to stop and handle it because it really didn't mean anything. All right, let's talk about closing.
Can I make a comment?
Wait a minute. I forgot about objections. Go ahead. John, you have something?
Yeah, I had a problem with my microphone, and I was trying to fix it while you were going through presentation, and I wanted to just emphasize something that's so important. Your telephone has so much power, but when it doesn't have power is when you mumble on and on and on and on and on. And really, brevity is important in any presentation, but especially with the telephone. Now, a lot of salespeople will tell me, well, if I make my presentation too short, I can't tell them about all my stuff. Well, you're not supposed to be telling them about all the stuff. Can you hear me?
Now I can.
Okay. Remember, your presentation doesn't have to go through every detail. It's a presentation. It's not an encyclopedia entry, okay? It's all right to leave a couple of details out. In fact, if you leave some details out, customers are going to turn around and want to ask questions about those details meaning you're going to further engage them in what you're doing.
Excellent point.
So don't try to get all the information out in the presentation. Focus on the benefits that you can offer them and how it solves a problem.
Yeah, and again, with the benefits, you may have 4, 5, 6, 8, 10 benefits to your product or service. They don't necessarily need to know about all 6, 8, 10 of them. They may only be interested in 2 or 3, and those, during qualifying, you find out their main interest, and you just nail those 2 or 3 repeatedly.
Absolutely.
And then, as John said, leave a little bit out so it forces them to ask questions, and it encourages them to engage you further. And don't we love those questions? All right, opportunities with objections. Simple technique, of course, is absolutely mandatory. Always acknowledge and proceed. They bring up an objection. I appreciate that. I understand. I hear what you're saying. Some sort of acknowledgement, and it's basically called a cushioning statement. I appreciate that. On the other hand, or at the same time, and you go right back into the benefit. Acknowledge, proceed, acknowledge, proceed. Simple, cushioning statement, benefit, cushioning statement, benefit. That is an absolute, should be at the top of your list on anybody ever handling any objections. Now, also, I encourage you to have a long and a short version of every way to handle every objection and even every question. I am amazed as I critique calls over the phone with some of my clients that somebody will ask a question or voice an objection, and 3 minutes later, the salesperson is still jabbering. It's like, they ask you what time it was, and 3 minutes later, you're telling them how to build the clock, what factory it was built in, who bought the land to build the factory. I mean, keep it short and simple, KISS. Always try the short version first, and then tie it down. Of course, you feel better about that now. Have we cleared that up? Is that out of the way? And if they say yes, you've handled their objection in 10, 15, 20 seconds. If they say, well, not really, then you give them the longer version. You do your a minute and a half, 2 minute, 3 minute dog and pony show, but always try the short version first. Now, here's the killer technique I promised to give you. It's called the switch-off technique. Folks, we all agree that we love buying questions. Most of us aren't really crazy about objections, okay? You have 2 choices when people bring up an objection. You can talk about what they want to talk about, which is usually that they don't want to buy, or you can talk about what you want to talk about, which is why they should buy. So if there was a technique to turn an objection into a buying question, wouldn't that be just finer than frog's hair? Well, folks, the switch-off technique does that. It basically turns their objection into a buying question. Here's an example. I'm going to give you 2 quick ones. If they say, I can't afford it, you simply say, I believe what you're asking is how we can work this into your budget, correct? Now, if they say yes to that, you've earned the right to go back and do more selling rather than argue, fight, defend, and do battle with them over money. Or let's say they say, well, I want to wait, or I want to think about it. You might say, it sounds like you want to know the reasons you should get started now, right? If they say yes to that, you've earned the right to go back and stress the urgency, or the limited quantities, or the possible price increase next month, or whatever it may be. So again, if this doesn't work all the time, there's no skill or technique or choice of words that work 100% of the time with every prospect, with every salesman, with every product or service. But this should be definitely at or near the top of your top 10 list of ways to handle objections. All right, I'm going to try to wrap up into closing so we can get into our offer and then still have a little time for some Q&A. Let's talk about closing versus conversations. So many salespeople, again, I still monitor and critique recorded calls almost on a daily basis with a half a dozen clients, and I invariably hear salespeople jabber, 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 and never really come right out and finalize it and try to get the sale. One way to do that is use trial closes. A lot of people are hesitant to ask a closing question because they feel it's pressure. Well, the best definition of pressure I've ever heard is trying to sell something to somebody that won't do them any good. A nice way to avoid that pressure, though, is simply trial closes. You can simply say, how does it sound so far? How does it look so far? How does it feel so far? Those are 3 of the 5 senses. You're only asking for their opinion, not necessarily asking for a firm decision. But if their answer is strong enough, you say, how does it look so far? It looks exactly what I'm looking for. Great, here's how we get started. You just closed the sale. Simple trial closes. Also, keep using the benefit summary. If you're not sure if they're ready, simply go back to the benefit summary. I listened to a call a month ago where somebody went back to the benefit summary 6 times until finally the prospect said, stop already. I'm going to have nightmares about the 4 critical points that I need to make the decision on. Let's just go ahead. He was overwhelmed with the benefit summary. How many times should you close? Well, that's going to vary from product to service to salesperson to individual situation. But basically, keep closing until they buy or they hang up. It's that simple. If you give up and fold your tent and steal off into the night, you're leaving with the impression that you really didn't believe strong enough to stick and stay. Stick and stay. Finally, I'm going to suggest to you a great way to start closing more is start telling them what to do instead of asking them. 5% of the people out there are leaders, 95% are followers. It's easier to procrastinate than it is to make a decision. Don't ask them if they're ready to buy or if they want to buy. Tell them, here's how we get started. Here's what we do next. Here's how we open your account. And you walk them through the process. Any other questions before we get started? Tell them what to do instead of asking them. All right, we're going to encourage you. Well, John, I'm going to throw it back to you because you wanted to talk about generating some hot leads without cold calling.
Yeah, as we close this off, I want to go back to where we started in the very, very beginning of the question, well, whether or not social media has killed telemarketing. Again, I really want to stress that social media has not killed telemarketing. If anything, more and more sales will be utilizing some form of telemarketing or web marketing or Skyping or whatever you want to call it than were previously, because a lot of businesses were, for example, you had sales reps traveling all over the United States, stopping in and making personal visits with particular clients. They're not doing that anymore. They're sitting in their basement in their underwear eating a box of cookies, calling their customer from Skype, okay? So the skills that Stan is going through, are more important than ever. They really are. And just so you know, in Russia, amongst the other things that I do, I'm a partner in pretty much the largest inbound call center in the country. And we have 600-700 telemarketers on the phone every single day, handling inbound calls and also calling through our database. And what Stan is sharing is absolutely spot on. Doesn't matter where it is in the world. But still, I want to leave with a couple of ideas about how we can use social media maybe more effectively. Couple of quick comments about Facebook. If you're going to be able to use Facebook effectively for lead generation, I definitely would suggest being involved in groups and discussions. And remember that when you're discussing Facebook, anything with anyone on Facebook, you can't just send somebody a friend request and say, hey, I want to, you to be my friend, and then your next communication is something like, hey, let me tell you about how great my product is. You need to do I say it like this, there needs to be a little bit of foreplay, first. You need to have a couple of interactions with who you're connecting with. You can't just go and try to close them after they accept your friend request. LinkedIn, more than anything else, I want you to understand that LinkedIn has the ability to actually download and capture all of your contacts. Now, most people don't know that. Most people think, well, I've got my contacts and I've got my network on LinkedIn, and I have to work it just from LinkedIn. Well, that's not true. You can download all of the contacts you make on LinkedIn. Now, why is that important? Because now you can actually start to build a list, if you don't have one, build a database of people that you know that could potentially be your customers. YouTube is something that's very, very important, and I'll explain why. A lot of people don't realize how powerful YouTube is as an information source, but that information source can be turned into a lead generation source as well. Here's what I mean. Let's say that you have a presentation that you normally do for your customers. Let's say it takes 5, 10, 12 minutes, whatever, however long it takes. Whether you put it together in a PowerPoint presentation, in a video file, or whether you decide to put you into it and maybe add some sort of PowerPoint technology or maybe some other more advanced video technology, whatever it is, when you have video online, first of all, it gives you credibility. Second of all, you can send all of the people that you talk to on the phone instant visuals. This is really important. People ask me, is there a difference between selling products and services? No. Is there a difference between selling face-to-face on the phone? No, not really. What are people buying? They're buying the solution that you have created in their mind. Now, of course, there are some nuances and details versus selling products and services or telephone and face-to-face. I'm not going to question that. But sales is all about psychology. It's not about tangibility. That's not what it is. Okay, so that's something very, very important to keep in mind. One other thing I want to do before we close up here is I just want to kind of close off from my side about 3 things that I'm always sharing with salespeople that I think are really important and probably, at least in my mind, the most important things that salespeople should know. And they really tie into your ability to get undecided prospects to buy right now. Because what I think salespeople fail to do, or actually, I'll put it this way, the reverse of the 3 things you see on the screen right now is what the standard is for most salespeople. First of all, the average salesperson is trying to be something they're not. If you try to be someone you're not, customers are going to pick up on it, especially over the phone. Because on the phone, boy, you don't have body language to be able to help compensate for your communication. All you've got is your voice and your tone. I'm sorry, your words and your tone. So you need to be as authentic as you possibly can. More and more people are looking for trust than anything else. They're not interested in being sold, scammed, tricked. They want somebody that they feel is real. Second thing about asking questions, and Stan says it's so absolutely beautiful. You know, it's not the traditional questions, but it's those instructional statements. You know, we need to be using those rather than running our mouth. The worst thing that you can do is talk, and that's not what sales is about. And I like the analogy that God's a pretty smart guy. That's why he gave us 2 ears and 1 mouth. We should get the hint.
Amen. Sorry.
No worries. And the final thing is solving problems. You know, I think that sometimes when we talk about benefits for the customer, which are absolutely important, everything Stan mentioned about benefits is so critical. I sometimes think that when we talk about benefits, we forget something that's maybe even more global in the picture or more strategic. Whether it's a business or whether it's individual, is what problem are we solving? Okay? That is something, especially in today's environment. And because so many companies and so many individuals are just not where they were a few years ago. And, you know, if you talk to somebody about a product, man, they're not going to buy. You tell them about how the benefits will enhance their life. That's getting their attention. But boy, you tell somebody about a solution to a problem that they have that's costing them money or time or stress or energy or whatever it is, we got their attention. And if you can solve problems, boy, I'll tell you what, I've spent the last 20 years in emerging markets reorganizing companies, amongst other things. And the reason why people pay me to come in and help fix their organization is not because I'm John, not because I'm necessarily so great or wonderful, or my credentials or my background. They want a solution that provides results. Period.
Very well said. Well, folks, we are running short on time.